Welcome to the Reed Flute. Find a comfortable position, take a slow, deep breath, and let the day gently fall away as we begin. The caravanserais lay quiet under a sky the color of deep indigo cloth. Camels slept along the outer wall. Their folded legs made dark shapes in the sand, and their bells hung still. A clay lamp burned in a niche, small and gold, with a halo of moths moving slowly around it. Near the lamp sat an old dervish with a reed flute across his knees. Opposite him sat a young traveler named Nadir. His cloak was clean, but the road had left dust along the hem. In his sleeve, he carried a letter folded many times. It was not cruel. That made it harder. The one he loved had written gently, asking for distance, asking for silence, asking not to be pulled back by grief. Since sunset, Nadir had decided to become guarded. No more reaching, no more softness, no more offering a place where pain could enter. The dervish did not ask to see the letter. He only lifted the nay and turned it in the lamplight. Its surface was plain. Its body bore the marks of cutting, hollowing, and fire-smooth touch. Before it sang, the dervish said, "It stood among reeds." In the marshlands, long before the caravanserai and the road and the folded letter, a reed grew in a bed of reeds. Water moved around its roots. Dragonflies rested on its green body. Wind passed through the whole reed bed, and every stalk answered with a soft brushing sound. The reed knew nearness. It touched others when the wind leaned them together. It drank from the same dark water. It belonged without needing to speak of belonging. One morning, a flute maker came with a curved knife. He walked among the reeds, listening. He did not choose the tallest. He did not choose the most beautiful. He chose the one whose hollow would carry breath. The knife flashed. The reed fell. If a reed could cry out, that would have been the first cry. It was taken from the water, dried in sun, cut again, pierced with holes, and held over gentle heat. Everything that made it a reed among reeds was changed. Its green skin faded. Its roots were gone. Its standing place vanished. Any reed that loved only safety would have called this ruin. But the flute maker waited. When the reed had become empty enough, he lifted it to his lips. Breath entered. The cut place did not close. The hollow did not fill with the old marsh. Yet from that absence came a sound that made men remember rivers they had never seen and homes they could not name. The reed did not sing because it had never been wounded. It sang because the wound had not been sealed against breath. Nadir looked at the flute in the old man's hands. He had thought his own heart would survive by becoming solid. A sealed jar, a locked room, a polite stone no letter could enter. But the reed before him had not survived by hardening. It had survived by becoming hollow without becoming useless. The dervish played one low note. It moved through the caravanserai like warm water under a door. One camel stirred. A sleeping merchant sighed. The letter in Nadir's sleeve seemed less like a knife and more like an opening he had not yet understood. The old dervish lowered the flute. "A guarded reed remains silent," he said. "A broken reed may become music. May the cut place in the heart remain open enough for breath to find it." The first note faded into the night, and the road turned toward a thornbush that had waited too long to be softened. The lamp's flame leaned when the night wind entered the caravanserai gate. Nadir pulled his cloak closer, not from cold, but from habit. A guarded heart learns to wrap itself before anyone reaches for it. The old dervish noticed the gesture and looked toward the dark road beyond the wall. In one of Rumi's tales, he said, a man planted thorns beside the path. The man lived near a village road where travelers passed on their way to the market. At first the thorn bush was small. Its branches were thin, and only a few sharp points stood along them. A neighbor caught his sleeve on it one morning and said, "Brother, pull this up before it grows." The man waved his hand. "It is nothing. he said. Tomorrow. Days passed. The thornbush took root. Rain came. Sun came. The branches spread lower over the path. A child scratched his ankle. A woman carrying bread tore the edge of her veil. A donkey stepped aside and spilled 2 jars from its load. Again the villagers came. Pull it up, they said. It wounds everyone who passes. The man was not evil. He only delayed. He had grown used to the bush. He told himself it marked his boundary. It kept careless feet from coming too near his wall. It gave him a sense of control over the road outside his house. Soon, he said, when there is time. Years went by. The thornbush thickened. Its roots gripped the earth like fingers. Its branches hardened. Now men avoided that part of the road. Animals bled when they came too close. The man himself grew older. His hands weakened. His back bent. One day, when he finally took an axe and tried to cut it down, the thorns tore his own skin. The bush had become stronger while he had become less able to uproot it. The dervish let the story breathe. Nadir stared at the sand between his knees. He understood the bush too well. After the first hurt, he had planted small thorns, a cooler voice, fewer words, a little suspicion held ready. After the second hurt, he had added more: pride, distance, the skill of answering tenderness with courtesy instead of warmth. He had told himself these were boundaries. Some were, but others had become a hedge that wounded any kindness trying to pass. The dervish picked up a small twig from the floor of the caravanserai. It had no thorns. He broke it easily between 2 fingers. A thorn is easiest to remove when it is still young, he said. Pain that is guarded too long begins to defend itself. Nadir looked toward the gate. The road outside was empty, but in his mind many travelers stood there. Old friends he had not answered, a sister whose concern he had dismissed, the beloved whose letter he had read as though softness itself were an enemy. Some had only tried to pass. His thorns had caught them. In the tail, the old man worked at last. He bled. He cursed his delay. Neighbors came with tools. The bush did not fall in one stroke. Branch by branch, root by root, it yielded. When the path opened again, travelers still walked carefully for a while. Trust, like a road, remembers where it was scratched, but the way was clear. The dervish placed the broken twig beside the lamp. May the young thorn of pain be seen before it becomes the wall around the heart. The cleared road lay quiet beneath the stars, and the night moved toward a saint whose name had to break before love could widen him. The night deepened. The stars above the caravanserai looked like small pierced holes in a dark tent. Somewhere beyond the wall, a jackal called once and fell silent. Nadir had stopped holding the letter, but the habit of guarding still sat upright in him, watchful and proud. The old dervish turned the reed flute slowly across his palms. Adder tells of Sheikh Sanan, he said, a man with a name so honored that many rested beneath its shade. Sheikh Sanan was old in the path. He had disciples by the hundreds. His prayers were known. His years of discipline had made him like a high cedar in the eyes of those who followed him. They walked behind him with lowered heads, carrying his reputation as though it were a banner. Then he dreamed of traveling to the lands of Rome. The dream returned. At last, with his disciples, he set out across difficult roads until he came to a city of churches, lamps, stone courtyards, and foreign speech. There, he saw a young Christian woman on a balcony. The sight entered him like fire through dry grass. Adder's Tale is not a simple love story. It is a story of a guarded holiness being broken open. Sheikh Sanan had guarded a name, a station, a robe of certainty. When love struck him, it did not flatter that robe. It tore it. He forgot the way he had been admired. He sat in the dust beneath the beloved's window. His disciples wept and pleaded. He did things that made his followers cover their faces. In some tellings, he tended pigs. In others, he gave up all signs by which men had known him. Those who had loved his greatness could not bear his abasement. Many left. One faithful disciple returned to prayer and grief. For a long time, Sheikh Sanan looked ruined. Yet the ruin was not the end. The heart that had stood protected behind spiritual rank was being emptied of its own image. The beloved herself later dreamed, awakened, and came toward the truth that had been hidden beneath the scandal. The Sheikh was restored, but not as before. A man can recover a name and still no longer live inside it. The dervish paused. The caravanserai lamp gave a small sound as oil shifted in the bowl. "Nadir," he said, softly enough that it was almost not speech. Some hearts do not guard themselves with coldness. They guard themselves with dignity. Nadir felt that sentence enter. Since receiving the letter, he had imagined his own restraint as nobility. He would not plead. He would not weep. He would not let anyone know how much he had been split. This dignity had seemed clean, but perhaps some of it was only another wall. He feared not only pain, but the loss of being seen as composed. Sheikh Sanan's disciples had wanted him safe, respected, intact. But Adder's road was harsher and more merciful. It led him through the breaking of the admired self into a wider bewilderment. The old dervish placed the nay against his chest. "Not every breaking is disgrace," he said. "Sometimes the heart loses its name so it can hear the one calling beneath it." Nadir looked at the sleeping men near the far wall. Each had a name in some house, some market, some memory. Each name could crack. Each crack could become a door. In the far city of the story, the balcony stood under the moon. The old sheikh beneath it was not wise in the way people had praised. He was poor, burning, undone. Yet through that undoing, a guarded chamber opened. May the name that must appear unbroken grow soft enough to be remade by love. The balcony faded into desert silence, and the night turned toward Basra, where a thief entered an empty room and found no locked heart. Basra entered the story in warm darkness. The lanes were narrow, and the houses held the day's heat in their clay walls. A cat moved over a roof. A palm leaf scratched softly against a window. In one small room, Rabia of Basra prayed beside a lamp whose flame was hardly larger than a date stone. Her room held almost nothing: a reed mat, a clay jug, a worn garment folded near the wall, a small bowl. Poverty had not made the room bitter. It had made it clear. Near midnight, a thief came quietly to the door. He had watched many houses. He knew which bolts were strong and which hinges complained. Rabia's door yielded easily. He slipped inside and waited for his eyes to learn the dark. There was no chest of coins, no silver tray, no folded silk. He looked beneath the mat, inside the jug, behind the hanging cloth. Nothing. The thief grew irritated. Even stealing requires hope. To enter a house and find it emptier than one's own hunger is a strange disappointment. He turned to leave. Rabia, who had been awake, spoke from the shadow. "Brother, do not go empty-handed." The thief froze. He expected a cry, a curse, perhaps a call to neighbors. Instead, the old woman's voice held no fear. "There is a jug," she said. "Take water, make ablution, and pray 2 cycles. If nothing is found in this house for the world, perhaps something may be found here for the soul." The thief stood in the middle of the room, ashamed and confused. The door remained open behind him. Escape was easy, yet something in the stillness held him more firmly than any lock. He took the water. His hands trembled as he washed. He spread the corner of the mat and prayed, awkwardly at first, then with a heaviness that bent his back. When dawn approached, tears had entered him without permission. He had come to steal from emptiness and found that emptiness had stolen his hardness. Rabia did not praise him. She did not make him confess. She gave him no sermon. The room did its work because it had not been guarded by fear. In the caravanserai, Nadir listened with unease. A part of him disliked the tale. A guarded heart does not trust open doors. It says that thieves must be met with locks, suspicion, readiness. And sometimes, in the outer world, locks have their place. But Rabia's room showed another kind of safety. The safety of having so little false treasure that fear cannot rule the house. The old dervish seemed to know the objection before it became words. Rabia was not careless, he said. She was free. A heart that has given itself to the friend does not spend the whole night guarding broken furniture. Nadir looked inward and saw how much broken furniture he had guarded. Old pride, old injuries, the need to seem unhurt, the story he told himself about being hard to reach. He had locked these things as if they were jewels. Perhaps a thief entering such a house would find more burden than treasure. In Basra, the thief left after dawn. He took nothing from Rabia's room, but he carried away a wound in his own hardness. The door closed behind him without bitterness. May the guarded house of the heart become empty enough that fear finds little to steal. The open door of Basra grew quiet, and the night smiled faintly toward a fool carrying his own door through the market. The old dervish allowed a small brightness into his voice. The caravanserai had grown heavy with deep stories, and a guarded heart can grow too solemn around its own defenses. A little laughter loosens a bolt that argument cannot move. In a village of crooked lanes, he said, Nasreddin Haja once decided to protect his house. It was market day, and the village was full of noise. Donkeys brayed. Women bargained over onions. A knife grinder turned his wheel near the fountain. Nasreddin stood before his house with a serious face, examining the door as though it were a question from a judge. The door was old but strong. Its hinges had been repaired with iron strips. Its lock was large enough to comfort any anxious owner. Nasreddin tested the bolt once, twice, then shook his head. A neighbor passed and asked, Haja, what troubles the door? Thieves, Nasreddin said. A man cannot trust the world. The neighbor nodded gravely, because this was true enough. A while later, people saw Nasreddin walking through the market with the door on his back. He had lifted it from its hinges and carried it away, lock and all. It was heavy. He leaned forward under its weight. His turban had slipped over one eye. Still, he walked with the dignity of a man who has solved a great problem. The baker shouted, Haja, why carry the door? Nasreddin stopped, sweating. So thieves cannot enter my house, he said. The barber laughed. But without the door, the house is open. Nasreddin tapped the lock with pride. Foolish man, the lock is here with me. The market roared with laughter. Even Nasreddin's donkey, tied nearby, seemed to lower its head in embarrassment. Yet the tale stayed alive because it carried more than foolishness. Nasreddin had protected the lock and abandoned the house. He had guarded the symbol of safety while leaving the real place exposed. The more he carried, the less he protected. In the caravanserai, Nadir's mouth softened despite himself. He knew the door. Since being hurt, he had carried his defenses everywhere. A careful tone, a quick withdrawal, a habit of saying little when much was felt. He took the lock with him into every meeting, every letter, every memory. But what of the house? What of the inner room where tenderness used to sit? Had that been left open to dust, loneliness, and slow ruin while he congratulated himself on being secure? The dervish chuckled under his breath, then grew quiet. Some carry the door on the back for years, he said. They call the weight wisdom. Nadir imagined Nasreddin under the door, sweating in the market. The image was absurd and merciful. It made his own guardedness less noble. He had thought himself disciplined. Perhaps some part of him had simply been walking around with a door on his back. In the village tale, Nasreddin eventually returned home. Children followed, laughing. He stood before the empty doorway and looked from the doorway to the door, from the door to the lock. Slowly, he understood at least enough to rehang it. Then he sat inside with tea, exhausted by his own precautions. The house was not made safe by carrying the door everywhere. It was made livable by placing the door where it belonged, able to open, able to close. The old dervish lifted the reed flute. "A heart needs a door," he said. "Not a wall carried like a burden, not an empty opening without care. A door. May the heart set down the heavy door and learn again when to open." Nasreddin's market laughter faded, and the night turned toward a small drop of rain falling into the sea. The market laughter dissolved into a softer tale from Sadi. The dervish's voice lowered until it nearly joined the silence of the caravanserai. The lamp had made a little pool of gold on the ground, and beyond it the night remained wide and blue. "A drop of rain," he said, fell from a cloud toward the sea. The drop had begun high in the dark belly of weather. It had been carried by wind over gardens, roofs, deserts, and sleeping fields. For a moment, as it fell, it shone with moonlight. It felt itself whole, round, complete, a small jewel moving through air. Then it saw the sea beneath it. The sea spread without end. It breathed in great dark movements under the night. Waves rose and folded. The moon lay across it in a path no foot could walk. The raindrop trembled. "What am I beside this?" it thought. "If I fall there, I disappear." A proud drop might have hardened into ice if it could. A frightened drop might have begged the cloud to take it back. This drop only became humble. It saw its smallness and did not turn away from it. As it reached the sea, an oyster opened. The drop slipped inside and was held in darkness. The shell closed. There was no applause, no sky, no shining fall, only enclosure, pressure, hidden work. The drop that had feared disappearance entered a chamber where it could no longer see itself. The sea moved outside. Sand shifted. Time passed. The oyster carried the drop in secrecy. Slowly, what had been a drop became a pearl. Not by guarding its shape, not by remaining in the cloud, not by refusing the sea. Its smallness entered a wound in the shell and was transformed there. Nadir listened, and for a while even the old dervish's breathing seemed part of the tale. The image of the oyster stayed with him. He had thought breaking open meant being scattered, losing form, becoming nothing in the vastness of grief. But Sadi's drop did not become nothing. It entered a hidden patience. It became more precious by surrendering the shape it was trying to defend. The dervish touched the ground beside the lamp. "The heart fears the sea," he said. "It does not know that some openings are oysters." Nadir looked at the folded letter. The request for distance had felt like a sea. If he entered it, he feared he would vanish. If he allowed grief to move through him, who would remain? So he had tried to freeze, to keep the old round shape of himself. But perhaps tears were not always loss. Perhaps humility was not humiliation. Perhaps the dark shell of a painful season could hold a work unseen. In the sea of Sadi's tale, the oyster did not hurry. It did not explain the change to the drop. It closed and carried. The drop could only remain. Hiddenness did what brightness could not. Outside the caravanserai, the stars trembled faintly as the night moved toward its last third. A traveler coughed in sleep. Someone turned beneath a wool blanket. Nadir imagined a pearl resting in the dark, born from a drop that once feared it would disappear. May the small self fall gently into the sea and trust the hidden shell. The pearl slept in its closed chamber, and the night lifted a bird from a hunter's hand. The old dervish lifted his eyes toward the rafters, where a small night bird had found shelter from the wind. It sat unseen in shadow, but once in a while its claws made a faint sound on the beam. The dervish smiled, and the next tale came from Rumi's wide garden of instruction. A man once caught a bird in a snare. It was small, no heavier than a handful of breath. Its wings beat against his fingers, and its dark eye shone with fear and intelligence. The man held it carefully but firmly, already imagining a little meal or perhaps a cage near his window. The bird spoke. "Release me," it said, "and I will give 3 counsels more valuable than my body." The man stared. A talking bird was no ordinary catch. Greed and wonder entered him together. "Give 1 counsel now," he said. The bird answered, "Never believe an impossibility merely because desire wants it." The man thought this wise enough. "Give the 2nd. Never grieve over what has passed beyond reach." The man loosened his hand slightly. "And the 3rd? "Release me first," said the bird. "The 3rd must be given from a branch." The man hesitated, then opened his fingers. The bird flew to a nearby tree, settled among the leaves, and shook itself free. Then it cried down, "Foolish man, inside my body is a jewel heavier than 10 measures of gold. Had the bird been cut open, wealth beyond counting would have been found." The man struck his forehead and groaned. He tore at his beard. He cursed his softness. He looked at the bird, now safe beyond reach, and his grief became a fire. The bird watched him calmly. "Already the 1st counsel is forgotten," it said. "How could a bird this small contain such a jewel? Already the 2nd is forgotten. Why grieve over what has flown?" The man grew still. Shame entered, but it came with a small opening. The bird had not deceived him to be cruel. It had shown him the hooks in his own heart. "And the 3rd counsel?" he asked quietly. The bird lifted its head. "Counsel does not help one who forgets the first 2 at the first touch of longing." Then it flew away. In the caravanserai, Nadir felt the man's empty hand. He too had been holding a bird, a hope, a relationship, a version of the future. When it asked to be released, he had bargained. When it flew, he imagined some hidden jewel lost forever. He told himself that happiness had been inside that one small body, that no other morning could carry sweetness, that his mistake had ruined all roads. The dervish took the folded letter gently from the ground and placed it nearer to Nadir, not forcing him to open it, only returning it to his reach. "Grief makes impossible jewels," he said. "The guarded heart believes them and then builds a cage for every living thing." Nadir looked at the letter. He did not know whether the beloved would return. He did not know what shape his life would take. But perhaps the bird had not contained all the gold in the world. Perhaps what had flown deserved mourning without becoming a prison for everything still winged. In Rumi's tale, the man remained under the tree long after the bird disappeared. His hand still remembered the warmth of feathers. Yet the emptiness of that hand began to teach him. It could close around absence, or it could open to the air. May the open hand grieve what has flown without making a cage of the sky. The bird vanished into the dark leaves, and the night carried a cup of water to a waiting mother. The hour had grown tender. The old dervish poured a little water into a clay cup and held it between his hands before speaking. Its surface caught the lamp and trembled. Nadir watched the trembling settle. The story moved to Bistam, to the childhood home of Bayazid. The house was simple, its roof low, its walls smelling of clay and winter smoke. Outside, the night was cold. Inside, a small lamp burned near the sleeping mat of his mother, whose hair had whitened and whose hands had worked through many seasons. One night, while the house slept, his mother woke and asked for water. Bayazid rose at once. The water jar was empty. He took it and went out into the cold. The stars were sharp above the rooftops. Frost touched the stones. He walked to the place where water could be drawn, filled the jar, and returned quietly so as not to wake her fully. But when he came back, his mother had fallen asleep again. Bayazid stood beside her with the cup in his hand. He could have set it down. He could have returned to bed. He could have slept and explained in the morning. Instead, he remained standing, holding the cup so that when she woke, the water would be ready. The night lengthened. His arm ached. The clay cup grew cold against his fingers. Sleep pulled at him. Still he stood. The lamp burned low. At some point, his mother woke and saw him there, waiting with water. "My son," she said, "why did you not sleep?" He answered only that she had asked. Her prayer rose for him in that small room, and the old tales say that much of what later opened in Bayazid began with a mother's pleased heart. The dervish looked into the cup he held. "This is a gentle story," he said, "but not a soft one." Love kept him open in discomfort. Nadir felt that sentence move through him. He had closed at the first ache of waiting. One unanswered message, one uncertain distance, one long night without reassurance. And he had set the cup down in anger. He had called it dignity. Bayazid's vigil showed another strength, remaining tender while the arm ached. The house in Bistam was not grand. No crowd watched. No one praised the boy's endurance. Love did not become dramatic. It became a child standing in cold darkness, holding water for someone who might not wake soon. The old dervish passed the clay cup to Nadir. The water was cool. Nadir drank and felt how ordinary mercy tasted. Not sweet, not bitter, only needed. "A guarded heart refuses to stand with the cup," the dervish said. "It says, when the other wakes, let them find me gone." But love sometimes waits without turning waiting into a wound. Nadir thought of all the times he had withdrawn to make another feel his absence. He had called it protection. Beneath it had lived punishment. Bayazid's stillness did not punish. It attended. In the small house of the tale, dawn entered slowly. The mother drank. The cup emptied. The boy's hand, stiff from waiting, was blessed by the very ache he had not fled. May the heart stay gentle through the long hour of holding the cup. The cup's coolness remained in the palm, and the night passed to a barber who served without asking to be seen. Baghdad entered the caravanserais with the sound of water against stone. The Tigris moved beneath bridges and balconies, carrying the broken lamps of the city on its back. In the market quarter, long before dawn, a young Junayd walked with his teacher's counsel still warm in his mind. He wanted to learn sincerity, not as a word, but as a taste. Near a narrow shop, a barber was trimming the hair of a wealthy man. The customer wore fine cloth. A servant stood nearby with a folded towel. A small mirror caught the lamplight. The barber's hands moved carefully, honoring the shape of the man's beard. Junayd stood at the entrance and said, "For the sake of God, shave my head." The barber stopped at once. He turned to the wealthy customer and said, "Wait." The customer frowned. "This man has no appointment." The barber answered, "He asked for the sake of God. No appointment stands before that." He led Junayd to the chair, washed his head, and shaved him with care. No haste, no roughness, no sign that a poor dervish had interrupted a paying customer. When he finished, Junayd thanked him and left, carrying the lesson like a coal under his robe. Years passed. Junayd became known. One day, remembering the barber, he returned with money. Gratitude had ripened into a wish to repay. He found the man and offered him a gift. The barber refused. Did the service done for God become a debt to be collected later? He asked. If payment was wanted, the wealthy customer was already sitting there. Junayd lowered his head. The barber had taught him twice. First, by serving without delay. Then, by refusing to let the service be tied with a string. In the caravanserai, Nadir listened closely. He had thought guarding the heart meant avoiding injury from others. But the story showed another hidden guard, the desire to keep accounts. Every tenderness remembered as proof. Every kindness stored as leverage. Every offering secretly waiting to be returned. The dervish touched his own beard and smiled. The barber's hand was open twice, he said. Open when giving, open when refusing ownership of the gift. Nadir looked at the folded letter and remembered the kindness he had given the beloved. Walks in rain, books carried, long listening. He had told himself these things were free. Yet when distance came, part of him counted them like unpaid coins. A guarded heart does not always close by withholding. Sometimes it closes by turning past generosity into a locked chest. Junayd, in the tale, did not leave humiliated. He left instructed. The barber's poor shop had become a school. The wealthy customer, the interrupted shave, the unpaid service, the refused money, all of it cut away a little more of the self that wants even goodness to be noticed and secured. In Baghdad's market, the barber returned to his chair. Hair fell to the floor. Lamps burned. Men came and went. Perhaps no one else understood what had happened. That made the act cleaner. The old dervish lifted the reed flute and let one short breath pass through it, barely a note. The heart breaks open when it gives without leaving a hook in the wound, he said. Nadir breathed slowly. He could not make every gift pure by wishing, but he could begin to notice the hooks. May the hand that gives become light enough to release even its own generosity. The barber swept hair from the floor, and the night drifted toward ruins where an owl guarded a treasure of dust. The night turned toward adder's birds again, but now the flock had reached a desolate place. Broken walls stood under the stars. Old arches leaned against darkness. Weeds grew where families had once cooked and children had once run. The moon placed silver-blue edges along the stones, while a small gold lamp burned near the hoopoe's feet. An owl sat high in the ruins, round-eyed and watchful. His feathers were the color of dust and old secrets. When the hoopoo called the birds onward toward the simurgh, the owl ruffled himself and refused. "This place is enough," he said. "Among ruins, treasures are hidden. Kings bury gold in broken walls. Men hide jewels under fallen stones. I will remain here. Perhaps one night the earth will open, and I will find what was left behind." The hoopoo looked around at the shattered rooms. "Long has the owl guarded ruins," he said, "and long have ruins guarded the owl." The owl blinked. "What is wrong with waiting for treasure?" "Nothing," said the hoopoo, "if treasure is truly being sought. But some hearts prefer ruins because no living guest asks anything of them there." The owl shifted on the broken wall. He loved the ruins not only for imagined gold, but because ruins did not disappoint him. They did not leave. They did not ask him to sing at dawn. They did not need warmth. They allowed him to become a watcher instead of a participant in life. He could tell himself he was wise, patient, almost royal in his hidden expectation. The hoopoo stepped closer. "The treasure beneath these stones is mostly dust. The greater treasure asks for flight." The owl looked toward the open sky. It frightened him. In the sky, wings can tire. Storms can rise. Other birds can vanish. A ruin, however poor, gives the comfort of something already broken. Nothing more can break it in the same way. In the caravanserais, Nadir felt the owls perch beneath him. He had also begun to prefer ruins. Old messages reread in secret. Old pain arranged carefully. Old memories where no new risk could enter. He called it remembering. Sometimes it was only nesting in wreckage because living rooms required courage. The old dervish moved the lamp slightly, and the shadows of the caravanserai wall shifted. "A guarded heart may choose the ruin because it cannot bear the garden," he said. Nadir looked inward and saw the truth. The garden had laughter, uncertainty, invitations, departures, blossoms that opened without permission and fell without warning. The ruin had control. It was lonely, but it did not surprise. He had mistaken that lack of surprise for peace. In Adder's tale, the owl did not fly easily. His claws had grown used to stone. His eyes, trained for darkness, disliked the hint of dawn. But the hoopoe did not shame him. The flock waited long enough for one wing to loosen, then the other. At last, the owl left the wall. A few small stones fell behind him. No buried gold cried out. No treasure chest opened. Only the sky received him. May the heart leave the familiar ruin when the open sky calls softly. The owl's stone perch emptied, and the night carried an old harp toward a graveyard where shame became prayer. The caravanserai had entered the last deep pocket of night. The lamp was low. Nadir's face had softened, though sorrow still lived there. The old dervish set the reed flute down and spoke of another musician, one from Rumi's telling, whose song had grown old with him. There was once an old harpist in the time of Umar. In his youth, people had loved his music. Weddings called him, houses opened to him. His fingers moved over the strings, and listeners leaned toward the sound as flowers leaned toward morning. He had known praise, coins, full bowls, and the warmth of being wanted. Then age came quietly. His back bent, his voice thinned, his fingers stiffened. The same songs that once opened doors now passed unnoticed. Younger musicians took his place. People who had once called him master now hurried by with polite nods. His harp remained, but the world no longer gathered around it. One night, poor and ashamed, he carried the harp to a graveyard outside the city. The moon lit the stones. Grass grew between them. No host waited there. No bridegroom. No feast. No patron. Only the dead, who asked no performer to be young. He sat among the graves and began to play for God. At first, perhaps, there was still complaint in him. The strings carried hunger, loneliness, and the ache of being forgotten. Then his playing became weeping. The harp lay against his chest like another rib. His tears fell into the dust. In the city, Umar slept. A message entered his heart in a dream, telling him to go to the graveyard and bring the old servant comfort. Umar rose, took money, and went under the stars. He found the harpist asleep among the graves, exhausted from crying. When the old man woke and saw Umar, shame shook him. He thought of all the years spent singing for human ears. He thought even his tears were stained by self-pity. Umar gave him the gift and the hidden reassurance that his crying had been heard. The old harpist began to weep again, but differently. He saw that the night he thought was abandonment had become an audience without faces. His broken music had reached farther than his admired music ever had. The dervish's voice grew nearly silent. "Nadir," he said, "the guarded heart fears becoming the old harpist. Unwanted, unheard, carrying a song no one requests." Nadir did not answer. The fear was familiar. When the beloved asked for distance, he had felt like a music set aside. His first impulse had been to lock the harp away, to vow never again to play where rejection could hear. The dervish continued, but the graveyard heard what the feast could not. The words entered slowly. Perhaps the heart's most honest song begins when applause is gone. Perhaps being forgotten by one door does not mean the song has no listener. Perhaps tears hidden from the world are not wasted merely because no beloved wipes them away. In the graveyard, the old harpist held his instrument as dawn neared. The stones around him were still. Umar stood nearby like mercy given a human shape. No feast returned. No youth returned. Yet the old man's heart had opened in a place he had thought only for endings. May the song rejected by the feast find the one who listens in the graveyard. The harp's last trembling string faded, and the night brought a poor jar of desert water to the palace of a river. The first hint of dawn rested beyond the caravanserai gate, but the night had not yet ended. The old dervish drew his cloak around him and lifted the reed flute one last time. Before breath entered it, he told a final tale from Rumi, a tale of a poor gift carried with complete sincerity. In the desert, a Bedouin and his wife lived in a tent patched by wind and sun. Their days were dry. Their bread was coarse. Water was precious enough to be spoken of with reverence. One night, after long poverty, the wife said that they should bring a gift to the caliph in Baghdad. Perhaps generosity would open a door. Perhaps kindness would return. "What gift can poor hands carry?" the man asked. The wife looked at their jar of rainwater. In the desert, it seemed sweet, clear, rare, a treasure gathered from the sky. "Take this," she said. So the Bedouin sealed the jar carefully and set out. He crossed sand and stony places. The jar was heavy. He guarded it from heat and spilling. All along the way, he imagined the caliph receiving it with gratitude. He did not know Baghdad. He did not know the Tigris ran there in wide abundance, river upon river of water moving past the palace walls. When he arrived, dusty and thin, he presented the jar. The servants could have laughed. The court could have mocked the desert man who brought water to a city of water. But the caliph received the gift with honor. He saw not the market value of the jar, but the heart that had carried it. He ordered that the Bedouin be rewarded and sent home by boat along the Tigris. Only then did the man see the river. It spread before him, vast and shining under the morning. Water beyond counting. Water moving freely past walls, boats, bridges, and reeds. His little jar, which had seemed so precious in the desert, was nothing beside it. Yet it had been accepted. The Bedouin bowed his head. The gift had not enriched the caliph. It had opened the giver. In the caravanserai, Nadir felt the dawn near his own chest. All night he had been protecting a small jar. The love he could offer, the tenderness he feared would be despised, the tears he thought too poor to bring. He had imagined that if the beloved did not receive them perfectly, then the gift was worthless. He had not considered that every sincere offering is already seen by the river from which it came. The old dervish raised the nay. A guarded heart says, "My jar is too small. It may be refused. Better not carry it." But love asks the poor traveler to walk anyway. Nadir took the folded letter and opened it at last. He did not read it as a sentence against him. He read it as one shore of a river he could not own. Tears came, not violently, not with despair, but as water finding a path. He did not hide them from the old dervish. The dervish did not comment. He only began to play. The reed flute's sound entered the pale edge of morning. It held the marsh where the reed had been cut, the thornbush cleared from the road, Sheik's sandal beneath the balcony, Rabia's empty room, Nasreddin's heavy door, the raindrop in the oyster, the freed bird, Bayazid's cup, Junayd's barber, the owl leaving ruins, the old harpist among graves, and the poor jar before the river. Nothing in Nadir was solved like a puzzle. The beloved remained distant. The letter remained real, but the guarded place in him had cracked. Through the crack came grief. Through grief came breath. Through breath came the first small sound of a heart not yet healed, but no longer sealed. Dawn touched the caravanserai wall with gold. May the little jar of the heart be carried to the river, even while it trembles. The river of morning widened beyond the gate, and the reed flute gave the night gently back to sleep. Thank you for spending this hour with the reed flute. If this brought you a moment of peace, consider subscribing. Rest well and sleep deep.